I want to do something really risky tonight, and I want to blow the cover off of a big secret in the energy sector in particular. I thought about this: personal risk, career machinations, this, that, and the other. It's going to be worth it. So this secret's probably worth a few $1 billion. That was how I knew that this could go well. In order to understand this secret, I want to first make sure you understand a very short fairy tale. It's super short. Bear with me. Once upon a time, there were two startups. One was named Instagram, and one was named WhatsApp. Let's get this up on the screen so that we can follow it. Instagram, WhatsApp. I don't know how I come up with these names, just kind of making it up as I go along here, but it's a story, so I think I'm allowed to do this. So Instagram was purchased for $1 billion. And sometime later, they lived happy lives, these characters in my story. WhatsApp was also purchased for many billions of dollars. I'm an engineer, I like to write things. Billions of dollars. Any questions? Billions with B. And so then you start musing about this. Instagram, WhatsApp, but who took the pictures? Who was it that had the conversations? Chances are it was you. You took the pictures in Instagram and shared them around. You had the conversations in WhatsApp and wrote the messages and shared them around. So this billions of dollars, when this event occurs, did you get any? Raise your hand if you got some. I'm happy to help you spend it after the show, by the way. So where this leads me is an open question. What is it going to take for us to cash in on some of the billions of dollars the next time this happens? Where is the social network that will let you and I cash out and benefit from the value that we've created? If all of this value is kind of being kept inside a network that we're all part of, that we actually built, I guess there's another story, the little red hen. Who was it that sowed the wheat and ground the flour and kneaded the dough? Anyone hear this story? And baked the bread, right? So that's a big question. And fortunately, we have an answer because it's part of understanding the big secret I mentioned. The answer is there is another social network that chances are you're pretty connected to, and I would guess at least one of your neighbors is connected to as well. It's called the electric grid. Great friend of mine, really underrepresented in pop culture. I'm not really sure why. I mean, at some points in history, we've been keyed in to the electric grid, right? I'm gonna rock down to Electric Avenue, then we'll take it higher. Okay, so why did it just fall out of pop culture? I don't know, but we're gonna bring it back tonight. So, I'm gonna show you one graph. Maybe I'll back up. I forgot to mention, none of us were investors, I'm guessing. None of us in this room were investors in these companies, so that's part of why we didn't get the billions, right? But we actually are. Each and every one of us is an investor in the electric grid. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to give you an investor briefing about how your investment is doing, because you're a stakeholder and you deserve to know, and chances are you haven't been briefed on this recently. So I'll take it upon myself to do that. Investors like graphs. We're going to have one graph, otherwise not technical, one graph with no numbers. And that's what this is right here. This is electricity demand over the course of one day. All right? So you can see, I don't know if I'm allowed to walk over and point to it or not, so I'll point from here. Am I allowed to walk over and point? I'm walking over and pointing. Okay. This is the morning. We're in the morning right here. People are waking up. They're beginning to use some electricity. Maybe they're taking showers or using other appliances. Some of them are showing up at the workplace. We have a small spike here. But later, this is where the action happens. Later in the day, this is so exciting. Later in the day, later in the day, there's what's called a peak demand. Everyone who is leaving the workplace and arriving at home is also starting to use appliances. Some people are at home cooking things, meals, whatever. They're using appliances. Others still at the workplace where everything is still on, and still other people are showing up for the night shift. And so industrial processes are still going. Every single weekday, this happens. And on some weekdays, maybe you know what I'm about to say if you've read Animal Farm, all animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others. On some peak days, this just gets out of control, and it costs, here's part of the secret, 25% of our annual expenditure on electricity goes for 5 or 6 days of the year. So a quarter of your annual electric bill, I do not mean the coin, a quarter, I mean 25% of what you spend. So if you spend $100 a month, talking about $300 here, goes to 5 or 6 days. In some parts of the country, it's actually 5 or 6 hours all year that cause this. So I hope, so far during the investor briefing here in our boardroom, I hope you're starting to think something fishy is happening with my investment. Why is something fishy happening? Utilities have not told you this because they simply pass these charges along in your electric bill. They're averaged in. You pay a rate at the end of the month. That's the same rate you pay all year. It changes as infrequently as possible. So they're all averaged in. So to recap, we've got 2 different areas of social networks. The social networks that we've read a lot about on the left-hand side here with their billion-dollar exits, and this other social network that you're going to have to take my word for it is about to have a very similar event. This money is about to be on the table. So I want to tell you what to do about it because I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you win on this one. So again, we're going to remind ourselves, billions of dollars. I think this is so great. Hope everyone's really excited. And so the other kind of little nuance is that the price of electrons changes throughout the day. I said that implicitly, but I want to say it explicitly here. So again, we don't really know about it. It's been all hidden, and it's coming out. And so now is the time where I get to give you the kind of personal viewpoint. Why does Robyn care about this? Why is it going to be Robyn versus the electric utility industry? Which is, I'm quite exuberant and full of energy, but I know it has quite a lot of energy as well. In our country, I think we spend about $300 billion a year on electricity. So I have less. Just going to tell you that now. And here's one of the reasons. I tried earlier in my career. I played a game called Robyn versus the automotive industry. And what I wanted to do was, thank you for the love. Do I not look like I could, chew up the automotive industry for lunch? What I wanted to do was create a project of many student engineers coming together and building hybrid cars. And I started planning this out in early April. I wanted it to happen in the summer. And I hadn't arranged a summer internship yet, and so I just started doing this instead. I went to various people on campus who I thought could help me. I went to deans in particular, because I knew that deans had million-dollar budgets, multi-million-dollar budgets, and I wanted to have a $1 million budget. So I went to this one dean in particular. One, it sounded good, sounded like it would work, and I outlined it in Excel, the best program ever. I wrote down exactly how I wanted to spend the $1 million, and then I got going, knocking on doors. This one dean, couldn't get him to respond. Email, no dice. Second email, no response. Okay, phone call, no response. Handwritten letter, nothing. I got nothing back. And I'm someone that I like to get to the end of the process. I don't mind if you're going to tell me no, but I want to ask. I want to get to the opportunity to ask. So I waited in front of his office at 6 in the morning, thinking that maybe he shows up really early and then organizes himself and has a busy day afterward. Okay, so I'm sitting in the hallway at 6 in the morning. Okay, it's 6:15, it's 6:30. He's not here yet. At 6:40, he shows up. He shows up shaving, like walking down the hall with this cordless electric razor, shaving. I'm awestruck. I've never been able to grow a beard. It was so cool. Look at this guy shaving in the hallway. I was inspired. Hey, I'd love to meet with you. I'm following up on my email. Do you have 10 minutes? He kind of looks at me. Who are you? Oh, it'll be really quick. I'm starting a car project. I start giving him the pitch. Students from around the world coming to campus in just 1 month. Please help us out. I'd like $250,000 now. Or next week. It's fine too. And he sits there after listening to the pitch. Thanks anyway. I can't give you $250,000. We don't give money to students like that. I appreciate your enthusiasm. It's all well and good. At lunchtime that day, he had a meeting with a billionaire. Some friend of his or some strategic partner of the university. This is MIT. They have lots of strategic partners who show up and see how things are going. And this dean says to the billionaire, "You would never believe what happened this morning. I show up in my office and there's this undergrad who says she wants to build cars in the summer, multiple cars, I think 4 or 5 of them in an 8-week period. She just came up with this a few weeks ago. The project starts in a month. Trying to raise $1 million, how ridiculous is that? So funny, ha ha ha." The billionaire looks at him, "Oh, that's pretty ridiculous. What a ridiculous thing." But that sounds like me when I was 20. That sounds like something I would have done. I would have gone to the dean at 6 in the morning and asked them for $250,000. That sounds like an entrepreneur. 3 weeks pass. I turned out to have a meeting with that billionaire serendipitously those 3 weeks later because I had been calling everyone that I knew and asking who they knew and asking whether they knew any billionaires. I'm quite upfront about these things. And so I got the meeting. And there I am again. I'm making the pitch. We're going to build cars. Students are coming from 12 different countries. And wondering if you might help us out. He says, "Whoa, didn't you meet with some dean?" Uh-oh. At 6 in the morning, yeah, I did. I met with that dean. He says, "Where do I send the check?" Good luck with it. Go get him. Thank you. That was about a 20th of what I was trying to raise, but it all adds up. And I ended up getting $400,000 that summer, and I ended up meeting my $1 million and exceeding it the next year, so $1.5 million total. And what I found through this experience was, here we were, super young, unabashedly willing to say, of course, us versus the automotive industry, of course. We think there's some change to be made here. We think that our group has something to contribute, and we've seen the enthusiasm of these people who are flying across the world to do our project. So today, I'm seeing the same thing with regard to this topic of peak demand. And here's the interesting part. All of the brightest people that I've worked with in the last 10 years have called me in the last 3 or 4 months to see if there's a seat at the table for them. Of course there's a seat at the table. Very humbling. Very humbling to be a team leader when these types of characters are coming back and asking to play again. And what's even more humbling is there are a lot more super sexy places to work than trying to help people understand this concept of peak demand. What I didn't tell you about why this happens and what the results are. So here's what happens if we don't have any peak at all. We just have kind of a wavy line of electricity demand. This actually means we, as a group of investors owning the grid, our grid is much stronger. It can react to different types of things. In particular, it can include more renewable resources because those are intermittent. And when those dip down and the utilities tell us to kind of change our behavior, and we do that, we win. So indeed, we could have a 100% renewable grid, which typically I think we only read about as some sort of technology dream. I worry that in this country, we're kind of waiting for superheroes to save us, for some superhero technology to come along and swoop in, save the day, save us from ourselves. And what I want to impart here is that, sure, I am just as excited about the robot invasion as the rest of us, but there are actually very, very small adjustments in life that can be made here to make this system, this $300 billion system, perform better. So it's really profound if you think about it. It's the idea of moving laundry night, one night, is going to make $60 billion of money come back to you. You're just going to take my word for it. It's going to take us a few years. We just started a new company to help get the word out about peak demand. But that's the level we're talking about. And I think that for each of us, whatever the issue of magnitude and importance happens to be, just have to recall that it can begin with a very small moment of realization. and a willingness to kind of step out there and take one change. Thank you.